begin with introduction, and let's see, we will not be seating any alternates tonight, so we'll start with town staff.
John Guyton, recording secretary.
Dan Bure, Town Planner.
Okay, and we'll begin with introduction of commission members, starting on my left.
Victoria Chechet.
Bob Ellsworth,
Tonka Foster. Carolyn Freeman.
Robert Taylor.
and again, there will be no seating of alternates. So, next item is to accept the agenda. We have a slight modification to the agenda under staff report. There are a couple of miscellaneous items to add and one item of note, and that would be Payne Boulevard Public Utility Infrastructure. So that will be discussed under staff report. So may I have a motion to accept the amended agenda,
So
please?
moved.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, the agenda is accepted, the amended agenda is accepted. First item on the agenda is a public hearing, which we will not be opening, from what I understand. That's for application 22-23, which is 529 Glastonbury Turnpike. Proposed two-lot re-subdivision and site plan review for 3 new commercial self-storage buildings. Anything further to say on that, Dan?
Yeah, we're just waiting for a further review from the new submissions from the applicant from our town engineer. So I didn't think it was, he didn't want to come to 2 meetings anyway, so we should have everything hopefully by the next meeting, and we should be hearing that then.
Okay, so we will move on then to our regular meeting, and the first item is application 22-20. And again, there will be no review of that application at tonight's meeting. Anything you wanted to add to that, Dan?
The applicant just asked for a continuance. I did let them know that we do need to close the site plan review at the next meeting in May. So depending on what they have, we'll see if they do present. If not, they can withdraw and then resubmit.
Thank you. And then the next item is application 22-21, which is 15 Wilcox Hill Road. It's a proposed site plan review for a new bus terminal. And again, I believe there are some drainage questions which still need to be resolved, so we will not be reviewing that tonight yet either.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, we will move on then to other, and we have nothing under, oh, I'm sorry, other, application 22-25, 16 Sand Hill Road. This will be a public hearing. We will hear it in the middle of May, May 18th, and it's a proposed zone change from IP to B2. Application of Michael Brown and property 16 Sand Hill Properties LLC. So again, that will be heard on May 18th. So we will move on to old business then, and first item is electric vehicle charging stations. And I know, Dan, I have nothing new on this. I know you sent out a link to a seminar, a presentation.
Yeah, it was a presentation that came in. I thought you or the members of EDC might find valuable, so I forwarded that on to you. I'm going to start working on this a lot more in the coming weeks, so that we can get moving on exactly what you guys would like to do and the level of involvement you'd like to have in the regulation of these stations.
Okay. Anybody like to comment or add anything to that?
I just have a question, and we may have already answered this, but just because it's coming to my mind. If somebody has a need for this at their house, they have an electric car, that's already covered, that's already being handled somehow, so this is just for.
This would be for like multifamilies, commercial or industrial developments. Yeah.
All the residential, the single-family residential is already.
Yep, that's strictly a building permit. Now, you couldn't construct these at your house and then charge people to plug them in. So yeah, it'd be strictly for the homeowner's use or a guest.
Okay, next item is Riverfront Overlay Zone. And anything new? I know we've been waiting and waiting for Victoria to join us. So she is now with us. We've been waiting for some of her insight about possible uses or modifications to the overlay zone that we might want to consider.
Well, some of the things that that I've been thinking about and is, I don't know if you guys all know, but the Blue Oar is closing permanently. And so there are really only two places on the river where you can get food at this point. One is in Rocky Hill at the ferry, and the other is the former Harbor Park in Middletown.
Is that even?
No, it's not, but the intention is that it will be. So I really still like the idea of food service there. I know we've had a lot of trouble attracting a restaurant. So I think that a food truck, kind of a food truck village sort of area where you have many choices, potentially having music. I'd love to see river access by canoe, or not necessarily a town boat ramp, but somewhere where you could put in a vessel without an engine, let's say, or, a canoe, kayak, perhaps a dock where you could actually pull up, have something to eat, and then leave. I think, it would be, and it would also be a really fantastic thing to have near the attractions that we already have in that area. So I think that would be a really good complement. The nice thing about that is that there's not a whole huge amount that needs to be spent on infrastructure because they're movable vehicles. So if there's some kind of impending flood, they can be moved. And there are a couple people and companies that curate food trucks, food truck parks. There's the one in West Hartford that actually we supply some meat to some of the trucks. So I have a little bit of knowledge of them, and they've shown some interest in moving to Portland. So I would like to see something where we're using the river in a public way, and attracting people with variety.
I mean, I just think that just sounds like a great fit when you think about the whole, just because of the flood, the situation with the flood thing. But I don't know, I just think that's a great idea. And also being an attraction to people to come by water also.
I think the water aspect could be done now, based on the regs. I think it would, there is kind of a caveat in the riverfront overlay zone that you guys have some discretion in terms of uses down there if you think it's appropriate, but I think it would be good to add this use to it, so you would give any prospective applicant some assurity that this is a use that's allowed. You could define, how you'd like the food truck park to be. I think the only infrastructure they might need is maybe some restrooms and like a trash collection area, but that's minor, I think,
Yep.
like you were saying.
Yep.
Instead of building a whole facility, so, that's,
I also think that having it not just be riverfront overlay, but actually having it be where riverfront and industrial meet, so that you're not opening this up to anywhere in the riverfront overlay zone.
we could explore that option. I could talk to the town attorney to see if.
That's one of the things, and make it really, so it's really becomes more site-specific, because especially with that place in the river, it just kind of, it works really, really well, whereas it might not work so well somewhere else in that zone.
So we'd have to take a look at it and just make sure that the area involved is large enough so that it wouldn't be considered spot zoning. So you don't wanna just zone one parcel, so let me think about that, and I can talk to Carrie,
Where the
the
two
zoning attorney.
zones overlap.
Or, yeah, we could try to define it in a way that that's where it would happen, if that makes sense to you. You would define it, part of it narrow enough that that's the area, that intersection
The
would be.
intersection of those two zones.
Yeah, would be where that activity would be
Is where
allowed.
this would be allowed.
So we might just have to do some brainstorming and get creative, but, because certainly like the Riverfront Overlay Zone has the Brownstone Park,
Yep,
you know, it has the, Quarry View Park
Yep.
as well. And then you know, it's really just those kind of parcels, so it may work out in a way anyways, that's the only option. But yeah, we can explore that, and I can just try to check with Carrie if we can craft that in a way that it wouldn't be considered spot zoning.
okay.
Now, as far as water access for crafts, the town is already pursuing
Yes.
a site down
Yeah.
in that general vicinity.
So it is further south down the river. The town has a large open space parcel to the south of Tilcon, where that is, and the town is looking to put in a access road and a launch through the Riverfront Access Committee, I believe, is spearheading that. And we actually have gone out and looked at that, and I believe Jeff Jacobson has done a little bit of engineering over there as to the access road and stuff, but they are looking to put a canoe and kayak launch there, and then maybe eventually to larger boats, but right now they're just trying to concentrate on the canoe and kayak launch, because that's an easier task to accomplish and get that started. And it's a really nice parcel, because it's the wooded area that's kind of right south of Tilcon and the Meriden Boat Club, and then it's that wooded area
Yeah.
that you see across from Middletown when you're at the former Harbor Park Canoe Club site, so, yeah, that's definitely in the works.
And Ben, there's nothing else associated with that, there's no other plan for having other,
No, the rest would stay
Just-
wooded, yeah, yeah, so they could theoretically, I guess if you had docks or something like that, you know, kayak over to whatever, I think Eli's is taking over where the canoe club was, some
Yeah.
sort of brewery type thing,
Yeah.
or come upriver to, say, the food truck park, so it would be a neat little,
It would,
little
it
area.
would be a nice
Yeah.
kind of thing, yeah,
Connection,
yeah. It would be nice to have a dock to pull up to, and,
Yeah, kinda like you know, you could go out, you know, recreate the river and then
Yeah.
go get food at either
and not
side.
have to travel so far south to the Blue Oars, since it's not open anymore.
That's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking.
Another restaurant though, that is on the river, it's called Marker 37, it's in Chester.
Oh, no kidding. By the marinas down there?
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
really very nice. They have like a lawn area where they have Adirondack chairs where you can sit out.
Now, can you dock there, Dawn?
Yeah, I think you can, I've seen, yeah,
Okay.
And it's on the far side of the bridge, right?
yeah,
It's, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's south of the ferry access in
Yeah.
Chester.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that would be really kind of a cool thing then, to just sort of develop, I don't know.
Yeah, so, yeah, let me look into the intersection portion, and I'll try to get you an answer for next meeting.
okay? Thank you. Anything else anybody would like to cover on Riverfront Overlay Zone?
Well, we have given other suggestions in prior meetings.
Yeah, and we can certainly try to incorporate those as well. Once we start you know, thinking of the uses to add, I know, you know, Tom had said to kind of go through the commercial uses list and pick some out of there, and I think you do have some latitude in the way the reg's written now, but I think if you gave specific uses like the food truck park and define that, it would give certainty that somebody, when they pick up our regs, they're like, okay, I know I can do that. They don't have to come here and pitch it to you, and hope that you think that this fits.
This is a good idea.
Yeah. So, and I'll say that your board that seems you've been very good in the past about uses that are allowed, you know, trying to tailor them to the area as good as possible, but if it's allowed in that zone, you generally find a way to approve that, and that, I think that's a good thing. So.
Yeah, the other suggestions, just, kind of like farmer's market, the basic.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of things that weren't permanent and require an enormous upfront investment in infrastructure,
No, I, yeah.
but still would attract people to town and to that part of town, and that,
And it doesn't have to be an either or thing too.
right. If
Yeah,
you- I mean,
yeah.
you could have music down there, and that would be really nice, and, there's,
Well,
there's,
I know somebody brought up like being able to walk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know, I haven't been down there, so I don't know if, a long time, so I don't know if there's like a dirt path or,
Not currently, because it kind of, just by the uses that were there before, and then I know the old Coast Guard station is wedged between the town park and those parcels, but I do know the Brownstone Quorum now is actually cleared out more land down by the river for the park, and they are gonna extend a walking path down there. They've consulted with our wetlands enforcement agent, Jim Sipperly, and they've gotten an approval to do a walking path down there and stuff like that. So it's certainly evolving in that direction.
yeah, and all this kind of fits together in a nice way,
So are you saying, Dan, there would be a path from this new property over to the?
No, not at this time, no. But
There
it's
is that.
certainly, I think if a business opened there and the town wanted to do that, especially if they're leasing from the town, then the town could probably do something like that, and I don't see why a business wouldn't want that sort of connection to the park. Because somebody could go there for a walk and then eat, or vice versa, park at the park and walk down there, get some food, and then walk back. So, it has some nice synergies.
And there's music there, so it becomes compatible that way as well,
Right.
yeah.
Maybe a location for the Portland Fair.
Why not? It doesn't flood there as much, and,
Nice view from the Ferris wheel.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, then we will move on. So we'll move on to staff report. I know, Dan, you've got a couple of announcements in addition to the one item we've added to the agenda. So we'll start with correspondence.
No correspondence.
Okay, Rainier Place update.
I think the proof is in the pudding right now. That first building is rapidly going up. It looks like they have most of the piers poured. They have that retaining wall along Berry Avenue that seems to be poured, and now it looks like they're pouring that back wall, the far wall from 66. So it's moving along pretty quickly. No,
A lot of concrete getting poured.
yeah, oh yeah,
That's for sure.
yep,
That's good.
yep.
Okay, go ahead. I guess we'll cover the Payne Boulevard public utility infrastructure item next.
Yeah, I just wanted to see what you guys thought about this. Payne Boulevard is served by a community well, Payne Boulevard, Wellwyn, and then there's another street or two in there that I forget the names of. But off of Payne, Connecticut Water has now purchased that community well, and they are looking to upgrade the water down there. I have a friend down there, the water's not good. Connecticut Water's having to truck in water. So they did put a well, they're looking to put in 2 wells on a piece of property that they purchased down there. Not looking to put any buildings in there. They need an access road, and then they need, to clear some area to put the 2 wells in. Currently, the way our regs are set up is for public utility buildings, and then I think it's a caveat of no storage yards and one other thing, and those are by special permit in the residential zone. I would propose to the board, if the board's amenable to it, so that project can move forward to change that to public utility infrastructure, and we can define that narrowly, so it's nothing too monstrous, but it would allow Connecticut Water to come in here and apply for that special permit. It would allow the people in the area to weigh in on that. I think they would generally be supportive because of their need for the water. But certainly I think it's a good thing nonetheless for the neighbors to be able to weigh in, but it would then allow them to move forward with these wells. Because I think they would like to move forward as quickly as possible. So if the board would be willing to give me the okay, I would simply draft the regulation change and probably receive it at the next meeting, and then hopefully vote on that, or have a hearing on that rather at the second meeting in May.
What does that open up? What would that open, I mean, you said to phrase it narrowly. What does that mean?
Well, I don't want necessarily giant, say, like water towers or something like that. Or we could do it either way. We could tailor it however you'd like it, but I would really like to keep it just to, because this is kind of a unique situation. This is, I believe, the only community well in town. So it's the only public utility outside of the town of Portland, which is exempt from zoning, so they don't need to worry about this, that would avail themselves of this. But, I don't want to see them put a giant water tower there necessarily. I don't think the people of Payne Boulevard want that, but it would allow them to put those two wellheads in, and then put the access road in down to the wellheads, and the associated piping to the existing piping network in that neighborhood.
What does a wellhead look like? Just the same kind of thing that you see residentially, or is it a building?
It's not a building. If it was a building, I think they could get in under the current regs, but it's not a building. It's more just a small structure. So, and that's my understanding.
What's stopping them from just making a building and putting those wellheads in that building?
They don't want a building right now.
Even if it's like small?
This is what they said they might put a building in the future. So I'm just kind of reacting to.
Which they can do.
Right, and I think that, to be honest, the smaller the footprint, the happier. One neighbor to the south has a well. Probably the neighbor that's the most impacted isn't going to benefit from this. So I think if we kept it as small a scale possible, that would be ideal for them anyways. And I think just the two wellheads would be less intrusive than a small building, even though I think you're right. That's kind of what I asked them anyways. But that's the direction they chose.
But the reg is against a public utility infrastructure. It's not, so just if they built the building, they would still be public utility infrastructure on a residential lot, and it would still be against the regs,
Well,
right?
I was thinking like Rob said, if they put a little building there and they had the wellheads inside, I could probably argue that that's a public utility building, and the associated road and piping would be to that building.
Right, but that would not be okay in the residential area,
Well, so a public utility building is allowed by special permit.
by special permit.
Right.
So they would have
It's
to come in.
infrastructure, though. It's not, I mean, if there's a difference between a public
Yeah,
utility building and a public
Yeah,
building that's covering.
Right, yeah, I guess you're parsing words, but I was just trying to find a way for them forward without necessarily having to go for a reg change, but I think it's the smartest thing to
Yeah,
do.
that's fine.
Okay.
How much of an emergency situation is this?
It's not an emergency.
Okay.
They would just like to move forward because they have to truck water in. And it's better for them and I think the ratepayers of that area if this is done sooner rather than later. So it's a really easy reg to write. I just have to change a few words in the use tables. And so, I think it's in the public interest that they have this done, so I don't have an issue with doing this through the town. I think,
Everybody in the neighborhood will get a chance to say what they want, because it will be a public hearing.
correct. So if there is some sort of outlying reason that I don't know of, it would have to be pretty substantial, I think, but I don't want to necessarily speculate on that pending application. But yeah, the two neighbors who the access road will have to come down, or access drive that has to come down between their two properties, would have the ability to weigh in, and a special permit will allow you some, latitude as to, you know, whether some screening or something like that might be necessary.
I'm guessing that the inconvenience or the bad part is gonna be in the whole construction of it, and once it's there, I mean, it's a well, right? So,
Right, but so they'll put in another driveway, and there's some topography there, so it, you know, it does wind through, and they'll have to clear out the, you know, an area that is currently woods right now next to those two homes, so, you know, there's not no impact in that particular project. And then if for whatever reason, you know, somebody else wants to, or another neighborhood wants a community well, which I don't think is ever gonna happen, this would just allow them to move forward.
But this will still be a special permit situation, it's not going to be allowed.
Yeah, it won't be a site plan review or, you know, by right. The special permit will give you the most latitude and the most say as to how this may or may not be approved.
And is there any way of knowing if this is gonna impact the well of the neighbor who has his own well?
That I don't know, but there's separation distances between wells, and I believe, well, like a standard residential well is, you know, has to be 75 feet away from another well or any other, you know, septic.
Right, but a community well isn't a standard
Is bigger, yes.
residential well.
Right, this is down by the river, so I think they're tapping that, you know, the Connecticut River aquifer, so, I can't guarantee that it wouldn't impact the other person's well. I don't have the expertise to weigh in on that.
I don't think anybody does until it happens, and then you end up with,
Well, Dave, would you want to go up there and chat real quick? We do have Dave Kuzminski here. He is a water expert. He is.
Yeah,
If you would, please introduce yourself.
Dave Kuzminski, Town of Portland, Director of Technology, but also have extensive experience in the water industry. Basically the system that is served, or that serves Wellwind Drive is a community service, a community system, which there's one well which is failing miserably. Connecticut Water was ordered to take over the system, okay, and in doing so, they've had to truck water in because the well that's the existing well that there is totally inadequate both in quantity and quality. So this is the remedy that basically that Connecticut Water is putting forth. The system, when you get into water systems, they are in our we call exclusive service area, but the town we don't have infrastructure out there to serve that, you know, as far as that goes for the town. So Connecticut Water has been basically told by the state health department that you're taking this over. So that's what they're doing. So that water system, basically, you know, to my knowledge, there's no personal wells of any of the houses out there. That was all part of that community water system.
Yeah, there is one. Yeah, there's one house.
There's one house?
There's one house, yeah.
and
Okay.
it's next door to,
It's next door to this property, but I do believe there's certainly several hundred feet between.
Okay.
I don't know the specifics, but it's a sizable distance.
Okay.
Dan, so how much of this we can actually talk about, though, as hypotheticals, where we don't have, special
With,
permit?
right, yeah, that's very true, Rob. Yeah, we should talk more generally about whether you would want something like this rather than the specifics of this situation.
I mean, I'm all for, proposing, you know, regulation, amendments for next meeting, so we can get this ball moving and actually have an official hearing about it, instead of having a bit more, like, what's turning into an in-depth conversation
Yeah, and I think,
for something that's been amended on the agenda.
yeah, and I think to Rob's point, if they do proceed with an application, you'll be able to ask those questions at that special permit meeting. And any neighbor will be able to raise any concerns they have with any public utility infrastructure that was to go in by their properties.
Yeah, going forward, as far as a public utility building, if, typically we have our Glastonbury well that serves us, it's basically a 20 by 20 building, basically. It's just with the wellhead inside of it, but it holds all of the disinfection equipment for chlorinating and corrosion control. So if going forward they opt to do something, it's not going to be anything that's going to be obtrusive.
Okay, more to come, I'm sure, if and when this comes to fruition. So you were just looking for buy-in on the commission on,
Me going ahead and
Making,
making the proposal, yeah. We don't need a motion or anything, as long as you guys are,
Yep.
okay. So I'll do that. And then I just had the one other item I thought the two other items I guess I should share. I guess the first is really good news. The town has made an offer and it was accepted for the position to replace Liz Tripp, as much as we miss her. We had 5 really good interviews I was very pleasantly surprised at the quality of the candidates we had, and then the quality of the 5 interviews we had, so they were very good. But we have hired a lady named Holly. She works in the land use department in the town of Marlboro, so she has experience, and I know I'm thrilled. I know Pete's pretty excited to get her in there. She starts Thursday the 27th, and yeah, we're really excited to get her up to speed and get to working with her, because she's extremely knowledgeable, and she's been working in Marlboro for a couple of years doing this, so it should make the transition much more seamless, and she should be able to do a great job serving the people of Portland. Yep.
good news.
And then one other note that I wanted to share with the board is this is the last planning and zoning meeting that will be have a virtual component to it, and that just was a decision by the town in terms of the financial costs of holding those meetings. So we will go back to our normal in-person that we used to do prior to COVID, and try to still provide as much information as we can through the land use office to any people who are inquiring about any specific applications, so that they're as informed as possible.
Does that mean we're gonna change our location back to the Mary Floyd one?
I don't believe so, no, because we had already, this was something that came up. We had already basically booked all of our planning and zoning dates, so it's something we certainly can discuss back in the future.
Show up to the right place.
Well, I have all the confidence in you that you will.
Well, because Carolyn brings me here.
Then you are all set.
You're in good hands. Well, I'd like to thank Dave and his team for supporting us
Yeah.
over the last
Thank
couple
you
of
so
years.
much.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
Let's see, anything else, Dan, under staff report?
That's all I have.
Okay, then we will move on to public comment. The commission will now hear any brief comments from any member of the public. Anyone in the room would like to make a comment? Okay, anyone on chat?
Nothing on chat.
Okay, then we will move on to the approval of the minutes from April 6th. And let's see. Present at that meeting were myself, Carolyn, Chantel, Rob, and Ken. So we do have a quorum. Any changes or updates to those minutes? Thank you for doing those off of YouTube, Dawn. Appreciate it. Okay, hearing none then, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of April 6th?
So moved.
And a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Okay, the minutes of April 6th are approved, and may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? And a second?
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, the meeting is adjourned.